Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second and final training panel for the 2024 RBC Brooklyn Half, one of the biggest half marathons in the country. For those of you who are here in person, those watching the live stream, or those who would be watching the recording at a later time, just want to go through some basic logistical information. So we do have gender neutral and accessible restrooms that are right behind us around the corner. And feel free to get up and use those at any time. If you need an assistive listening device, you did not request one, you are still able to get one. You can just see my colleagues at the desks to my right. And this panel is being live streamed on the NYRR YouTube page. The live stream will turn into a recording at a later time, and it will be closed captioned. Just keep in mind the closed captions are auto-generated. So if I'm not enunciating properly, it's gonna put some gibberish on the bottom. So they're not done by a person. They're actually auto-generated. So we apologize for any inconsistencies there. And if you have any questions, we will be taking questions from the audience towards the end of the panel event tonight. So feel free to hold on to those questions. And then if you're on the live stream, Coach Ben is actually watching the chat. Feel free to add any questions there, and we'll take a mix of questions from the audience here as well as from the chat on the live stream. So my name is Saman Wakad. I am the Diversity, Equity, and Social Responsibility Specialist here at New York Roadrunners. I get to do the fun part of asking fun questions, and I'm not an expert, so I'm not one of these runners who's run multiple marathons and half marathons. So for folks here in the audience, on the live stream, watching the recording, we do want to provide some physical descriptions of the folks up here. This is for folks who might be low vision or blind. I am a South Asian woman. I am wearing a, bright blue fleece with the New York Roadrunners and New Balance logos on the front. I'm also wearing a dark blue headscarf and glasses. And now we will move on to the folks that you are actually here to listen to. So to my left is Coach Steve. Steve Mura is an RRCA and V.02 certified coach, and he has been working at New York Roadrunners for 9 years, coaching runners across the world, both virtually and in person. And he has completed the RBC Brooklyn Half 8 times with a PR of 1 hour and 24 minutes. This year, Steve is pacing the 2-hour group for the RBC Brooklyn Half.
Thanks. Yeah, my name's Steve. I have a black hat that says Coach and a shirt that says Coach in case you forget what I do here, and New Balance tennis shoes.
Thank you, Coach Steve. And to Coach Steve's left is Stephanie DeBrita. Stephanie is the director of New York Roadrunners International Tour Operator Program, and she is also a part-time group training coach at New York Roadrunners. She has completed the RBC Brooklyn Half once before, but she has actually run over 15 half marathons with a personal best time of 1 hour and 29 minutes. And most recently, she completed the 2024 TCS London Marathon with a time of 3 hours, 19 minutes, and 57 seconds.
Thanks, Saman. Oh, thank you.
I didn't get clapping.
I know, well, thank you. I am a Caucasian woman. I have green pants on, and like Saman, I have a New York Roadrunner light blue fleece with the New York Roadrunner emblem and the New Balance emblem.
Thank you, Stephanie. And last but not least, right in time, to Stephanie's left, we have Anil Nandkumar. Anil is an advanced clinician and board-certified physical therapist at HSS. That is the Hospital for Special Surgery. Anil has experience treating a wide variety of orthopedic and sports clinical cases, including surgical cases, non-surgical cases, and patients coming in as direct access. He covers many of New York Roadrunners and TCS Marathon events throughout the year, so you may see him out there. Anil enjoys working with patients of all ages, and he treats a broad spectrum of body regions and diagnoses. Anil?
Lovely intro, thank you very much. Sorry for being late. Again, avid runner, for both training and for races. And here at the Hospital for Special Surgery, we have a plethora of different avenues to kind of get you back, get you ready to go, and get you better moving.
Thank you, Anil. And Anil just came in, as you saw. So we were just doing some brief physical descriptions. So if you just want to tell folks that might be low vision or blind, what they would have noticed.
Gotcha. I am a Caribbean man nice hair. And, I'm wearing all black, and I have a HSS marathon sweater on.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So let's move on to the questions for the evening, folks. So anybody know how many days until one of the largest half marathons in the country? Any wild guesses? How many days are you running the half marathon in? Go ahead. 9? Okay. There's a
like
lot
that-
of hesitancy.
I like the hand raise too, very polite. I like it.
9? It is 9 days, folks. That's exciting. You've made it this far. So we're 9 days out from the big day. So let's talk to our panelists a little bit about that. So Coach Steve, we'll start with you. What should runners be doing during these last 9 days before the race?
Yeah, so these last 9 days, we think of it as tapering. A lot of our plans, they're tapering. The mileage is getting lower. I don't like the term tapering too much, but that word is kind of like sharpening. Because a lot of people think tapering is like, oh, I'm done running. I'm going to stop running and just, that's training's done. Well, you still have 9 days left. That's 9 quality days. And we call it sharpening because we're really sharpening our race. So we're going to look at what we're going to wear now. Now's the time to figure out our clothing. What clothing worked well in our training. We're going to look at our paces, maybe look back at your logs and say, okay, these long run paces were around this 10 minutes per mile when I did a 10-mile run, but my speed runs were this pace, so that's a good goal pace for the half marathon. So kind of take stock of how your training has been, look back at it. Once again, gear, what shoes you're going to wear. You've probably worn different outfits. We're getting kind of close. You can think about what the weather's going to be. It might change, but that idea is there. So really start figuring out what race day is going to look like, and we're going to dive into that a lot. But look at your calendar, look what you've done before. We're still running, just less mileage, less intensity, but we're not all of a sudden stopping running because that's going to really throw off your race. I'm sure, Stephanie, when you ran the London Marathon, you didn't stop running after that long run, that tapering. You're still running, maybe some speed workouts, but just less repeats. It's less mileage. And so keep working out, keep running, but also if you're looking at recovering versus running, if something's bugging you, oh, my ankle, it just feels tight, more conservative at this part of your training. So really think, okay, I want to rest more than run if you're feeling any tightness, any soreness, because now's a time where you're not going to get any faster for the race. You're not going to break, you're not going to get from 8 minutes, you're not get 7:30 per mile at this part of your training. You can only kind of stay healthy or get healthy at this part of the training. So really look into it as kind of sharpening what we're doing these last 9 days or a week and a half, and then come race day, you'll be ready to go.
And Coach Steve, just want to clarify, you said they can select what shoes they want to wear. This is obviously nothing new on race day.
Nothing new on
right?
race day. So by now we should have known what our shoes are, but kind of if you're deciding I'm going to wear these shoes or these shoes, now's the time to kind of pick that shoe, maybe get one more this weekend, do one last run in those to make sure that's what you want.
Awesome, thank you. Next, we'll move on to Stephanie. What should runners start doing now to prepare for the big day, and how should runners plan for the week?
Yeah, so I think what Coach Steve just talked about, you're going to be having a lot more time on your hands. You're going to be resting a little bit. Maybe your workouts aren't going to be as long as they were. So this is the time to start planning mentally for your race. So how am I going to get to the pre-party to pick up my bib? How am I going to get to the start? What am I going to wear? What am I going to eat that morning? Where's my family, my supporters going to see me along the course? Are they going to find me at the finish line? This is when you should be writing all these questions down, coming to an event like this, listening to our recording later, and seeing what those answers for the questions are. You've spent the last 12 weeks planning and making sure that you are physically ready for this race, so now let's be mentally ready for this race. Don't miss the start because you forgot to see what time the race starts. This is when you start finding out all those details. All of our information is up on the website. We're going to talk about it as well, but this is when you start writing those questions down and planning what does Wednesday through Saturday of race week look like.
Thank you. And then, Anil, for you, I'm sure a lot of folks might be feeling this, but runners in the audience, those watching the live stream, they might be dealing with some last-minute discomfort from their training. What are some of the best ways to aid those discomforts or to even adjust their goals?
Yeah, I think, if you guys have heard me speak here before, it's always about trusting the process. And so, we're quite close to race day, and now is not the time to try anything new, really. You have been training, you know what kind of works well for you. So for instance, if you feel extra sore in those quads or those hammies, all right, spend a little extra time foam rolling. Potentially, doing things of like more of a dynamic warm-up, more of a good cool-down, emphasizing those points, and just see if those things kind of work best for you. Now is not the time to just go into a heavy maybe sports massage or acupuncture or things like that you haven't tried yet, right? Right now it's about just trusting your gut so that you can cross that finish line.
Thank you. So in a few days, we're going to be in race week, right? Exciting. Nerve-wracking even. So runners get excited, they get a bit nervous. So Stephanie, we'll start with you. Talk to us about the pre-party. What can runners do there and how can they even get there?
So show of hands, how many people have done this race before and know where our pre-party is? All right, so
It's not that many.
It's not that many, so this is exciting. Let me start by saying our pre-party is a whole vibe. I mean, you take what's quintessential Brooklyn and we create it on in Brooklyn Bridge Park. It is amazing. So we are in Brooklyn Bridge Park, under the Brooklyn Bridge. Amazing from Wednesday to Friday, 11, I want to get my times right, 11 a.m. to 9:30, with the last bib pickup being at 9. While you're there, we're going to have all of our amazing partners. New Balance will be there with their collection for Brooklyn. We'll have our amazing, wonderful coaches doing our course strategy and also handing out pace bands. We'll also have some of our pacers there that I'm sure you're going to lead into more in our conversation.
I can.
Yeah, if you want. So they'll be there. We'll also have some other partners there activating RBC throughout the pre-party. We'll have lawn games, music, maybe even see some special DJs that are going to be there. But it's a lot of fun. We've got food trucks. And then we also have, for those that may need it, lactation areas where so it's just going to be a whole vibe, a good party, lots of fun. I think it's a great time.
It truly is a vibe, and actually there is an event guide that you can pick up at the pre-party, or they have several event guides here, so feel free to pick one up here as well. So let's move on to Coach Steve. Coach Steve, this is a big one. Talk to us about confidence. How do runners stay mentally strong over this last sort of week and a half of training?
When you look back at your training, you have to remember that May 18th is kind of the celebration for what we've done. The hard part's actually over. The hard part was deciding to lace up your running shoes on Saturday morning when it was raining on that cold morning on April 1st. The hard part was going to group training when it was snowing. It was those days you didn't want to get out the door and you did it. That was the hard, as group training leads right now, that was the hard part of training. The 10 weeks, the 12 weeks, sometimes more than that, was the hard part. And so what we're doing in 9 days is actually just really celebrating that. We're going to have 27,500 people celebrating weeks and months of training, 1,400 volunteers out there. So you really need to remember when you line up at the start line or as you're at the pre-party, really why we're doing this and remember what got you out that door. Because now as we are tapering or sharpening or whatever you call it, it can be hard because we're not running, so our body's like, I ran 6 miles this weekend. I'm not ready for this race. But remember, we're building on everything we've done over the last 10, 12 weeks, and that was the hard part. And as you kind of make your way throughout the days and the weeks, I always tell athletes, look at yourself like your coach would look at you, or your teammates or your friends. And they're proud of you because you did 8 weeks of this, 10 weeks. So look at yourself that way. When you're going to get your bib at the pre-party, take a photo of it. Be happy with what you're doing because what you're doing out there is a big deal. Not many people run the RBC Brooklyn Half. While it's the largest half of the country, still not that many people do it. It's an amazing thing of what we're all doing out there. So really be confident in what you're doing. Be proud of what you're doing.
Thank you, Coach Steve. And Stephanie, just wanted to come back to you. So runners are going to go to pick up their bibs, right? Is it just runners?
No, so I'm glad that we came back to that because this pre-party is open to everyone. So you can bring your friends, your family, your 4-legged dogs, 3-legged dogs, any type of dog you want to bring. But it's open to everybody. Like I said, it's a party. The best way to get there is the subway though. So make sure you're checking the MTA. There's 2 stations. Again, I just want to make sure I get this right because I don't want to send you off in the wrong direction. It's race week. You don't need to walk more than you need to. But the best ways is going to be to take the 2 or the 3 to Clark Street or the A and the C to High Street. Just check the MTA in case there's any delays or changes.
And if you do need to walk, it's a beautiful walk down the pier, and hopefully we'll have great weather that day. Thank you for that advice, Coach Steve. Great mindset shift that you are celebrating now over these next few days instead of hopefully stressing out. So Anil, we'll move on to you at the pre-party. HSS is going to have some talks. Talk to us about those talks and what runners can do to stay relaxed during race week, whether or not they attend those talks.
During those talks, we're going to be going over any last-minute tips or tricks as far as from a rehab and performance standpoint there. So there's a lot of useful, helpful tips, especially, a couple days later you'll be running that race. So maybe something you can pick up on, especially if something arises in the next couple days. And then, also, I'm sorry, what was the second part?
The second part was how can they stay relaxed?
Yeah. First of all, good posture, everyone.
Everyone's like this now. It's like, oh yeah.
Everyone's slumping.
Yeah, so to stay relaxed is just like Coach Steve was saying, really, really it's about thinking about the whole picture that you've been training for, right? Visualizing yourself at the start line, visualizing yourself not even at the finish line just yet, but first mile, second mile, knowing exactly how you've reacted during your entire training progress, So, and then also, I would say get into a good solid routine if you don't have one already. Go to bed at a certain time, eat a certain meal that agrees with you. It's about really controlling as many variables as possible, and so that way you can really just control yourself on race day.
Thank you. And so we talked about race week. We talked about these 9 days leading into race day. So let's move on to race day. On race day, you all are going to be relaxing, hopefully, right? Before the horn goes off on Washington Ave, you're going to be relaxing in your corrals, maybe chit-chatting with your buddies that are next to you. So Stephanie, talk to us and the runners about how do they get to those corrals, and what should they be doing race morning to be successful in their race?
Sure. So for me as a runner, but also in this role, I think race morning success starts with pre-race night success. So what does that mean? So the night before a race, you are putting your shoes out. I put my socks in my shoes. Then I put my shorts. Then I put my shirt, sports bra, gels, water. Everything is laid out. My bib has the pins in it. It's on my shirt. And really making sure that that night, everything you need for race morning is there for you. There is no need for you to wake up on race morning and try and find the other black sock that you are looking for to wear on race day. Do all of that Friday night. Make sure you're taking care of that because this isn't going to be like you're walking out your door and you're doing your long run. This is going to take some planning. It's going to take some time to get to the start. So again, we really recommend the subway to get to Prospect Park because there's going to be 36,499 other people trying to do the exact same thing that you're doing. So make sure you're planning, make sure you're leaving early. But I do want to sit on how to get to the start a little longer because we actually have a new start area. It's the same area that you've seen at Brooklyn in the past, but regardless of the wave that you're in, we've broken the start area based on corral. So if you're in corral AA through F on the subway, you'll want to get off at Franklin Ave. And if you are in corrals G through L, you'll want to get off at Grand Army Plaza. So regardless of whatever wave you're in, you're going to want to look at the corral on your bib. So if you've never gotten a bib, if this is your first race, you'll get a bib. It'll have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. And our runner services team actually puts a letter, that's your corral, and it's where you're placed in the race. So that's what you're going to want to look at when you're trying to figure out which subway to get off at the start.
And will this information be shared via email or somewhere else with
This
the
is on
runners?
our website. It's also in the event guide. So for those that are in person, we have some over with our run center team. Grab some on the way out. That way, again, over these next 9 days, you're reading, you're planning, preparing for race day.
Awesome. And when you do that pre-race night, like outfit layout, take a picture, hashtag winning, hashtag RBC Brooklyn Half, and you post it to social media so you can force your friends and family to actually come out and cheer for you if they're not planning on it. I'm kidding. Make sure your friends and family come out and cheer for you. We're going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes. So Anil, talk to us about what are the best ways to relax and shake out the body, calm the nerves before the race. I know we're talking a little bit about this, but as you get closer to the race, this is going to become a bigger thing, right?
I think the biggest thing is developing a good dynamic warm-up. That is the best way to actively calm yourself down. That may sound counterintuitive, but the best way for you to again shake out those sore hammies, sore quads is by actually moving and doing specific exercises that really start to get them going, but also getting them quite relaxed as well too. So that can be high knees, that can be butt kicks, that can be, if you tuck your little monster band in your pocket there, you can do little side steps, anything that you've found over the course of your training to kind of really turn on your muscles, activate your muscles, so that way you're not spending the first mile, 2 miles finding your muscles, they're already there. That's kind of the best way for your body to let itself know that, all right, I'm ready to run 13 miles.
Awesome. So Coach Steve, what is the best advice for athletes before the horn goes off? They're in the corrals, they're nervous, and Anil gave some great tips for how to handle that, but what is your best
remember,
advice?
nerves are good. Nerves mean we're doing something that matters to us. Steph kind of talked about it, but also you can think about it as another long run. I mean, so we're not racing 13.1 miles. That would be very hard on the body. We're running hard for 10 miles, and then we might race 5K. So most elite athletes out there, the people that win it, they're not going to race 13.1 miles. They're using each other, pacing each other, sticking to their race plan. This race, if you're thinking of an RPE, remember we're like, if 10 is like a race pace and 1 is we're just walking, it's like a 5 or 6 for those first few miles. We're just getting into the rhythm, especially Prospect Park, which we'll go into a little bit later, but we're getting into the rhythm. So we're not racing 13.1 miles. So look at it once again. Long run with a little more pressure because we're performing, but we know what shoes we're wearing because we've worn those already. We know what shirt we're not wearing the race shirt. Now I know it looks great and everything like that, but we're going to save that for after the race. So we know what we're wearing, we know what we're eating. So everything is already planned out. Remember that we're celebrating what we're doing. Everything we're doing on May 18th, we've already done before. Just might be adding another, maybe 5K to our long runs, a little bit farther. But use those nerves are really good, especially if it's your first half marathon. Is anyone first half marathon ever on May 18th? Yeah. I love that. There's a lot of first timers out here. And if it's your first time, it's definitely have fun out there. The biggest advice for anyone. So when you're on that start line, that horn goes off, just really soak it in. The runners around you, the atmosphere, getting there, take pictures, really soak it in. Those nerves are good, the excitement's good. Every feeling you have is going to be the right feeling is the right feeling that you're going to be having that moment. So really soak it in. And those first timers enjoy every part of the course.
Awesome. And so they're at the corrals, they've figured out how to ways to handle their nerves, and now they're about to run 13.1 miles through Brooklyn from Prospect Park to Coney Island. So Kosti, we'll go back to you. What is the best way to actually run this race?
Fun. Just have fun. So you can also think of this course, I call it a mullet. So it's business up front and a party in the back. The first 6 miles, strategize. So you're really going to have the biggest hills, almost all the hills, not even just biggest, all the hills in the first 6 miles. The most turns the first 6 miles, then the party starts in the later half of the course. So really early on, if you're looking for a goal time or a personal best, is really where you want to kind of hold back, run conservatively, stick with a pace team out there. If you go out a little fast early on, it's going to be really hard to correct that in the later part of the course, which is Ocean Parkway. It's just downhill, flat, all the way to the beach. So you really want to hold back early on. As I said, stick with the pacer, have fun out there. But the hardest part, especially Battle Pass Hill or Zoo Hill as locals call it, is the biggest hill, about mile 4.5 or so in Prospect Park. Use your arms going up that hill. What your arms do, your legs will follow. Take your time going up the hill. If you need to walk, all good. Just take your time going up those hills. But once again, business up front and party in the back. We will be having course strategies, as Steph said, about 20-minute course strategy session at the pre-party, so we'll go in more in depth. But everyone can also have a personal best out there. Whether it's your best time as far as your clock and your watch, the best time as far as like, that was so fun. Your best hydrated race, your best, strategized race. So just because it's not a best time on the clock, you can still have an amazing race out there. I call personal best no matter what happens out there for everyone.
And where can folks find out more information about the course strategy sessions?
We'll of course strategy at the pre-party. They're on our website. The hours, basically every hour on the hour at the pre-party, will be there. We sleep there all night in Brooklyn Park. She thinks I'm joking, but
Well, no sleep till Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course. You know,
we're not
you
to
have
bed
get it
tonight, I
in,
guess.
yeah.
Not in Brooklyn yet.
We don't actually do that. Please don't complain to HR. So next, we'll move on to Stephanie. As folks are running through the course, talk to us a little bit about what amenities might be there. As we saw, about half the room has never run a half marathon before, right? And then, so what amenities are there? And also, how can friends and family locate their loved ones while they're running the course?
Yeah, so I'll start with the second question first because I have a trick that I like to use with my friends and family whenever I run a race of this scale. I always share my location with them on my phone. So while we do have an NYRR app that I encourage you to have your friends and family track you with, I like sharing my location for several reasons. One, they know I've gotten to the start. Two, they know I'm on the course. Three, when I finish, they know where I am. So instead of me saying, I'm by Nathan's, seriously? Like, there's 37,000.
She's in line for the hot dogs.
There's 37,000 people that are going to be here. So make sure that your friends and family know where you are. So it just kind of helps from a safety perspective, but also just after the race, it's always good to be able to find your friend. And then the amenities that we have while you are running along the course, we have 10 aid stations that are going to be along the course. There's going to be water, Gatorade, and toilets at every aid station. We're also going to have medical tents. So if you're not feeling well, check yourself into a medical tent. Don't just walk off the course. We want to make sure that you are safe. Your friends and family want to make sure that you are safe. So if you're not feeling well, check into a medical tent. For those that may need it, we will also have lactation stations at the start, along the course, and then also at the finish as well.
I think it's just point out those medical stations. Just because you use them does not mean you're out of the race totally.
Totally,
You use
yeah.
them. I used them when I ran Boston. It was so hot out. I went in there, I got some ice. Back on the course 5 minutes later. I know someone sat 20 minutes in there just cooling off in the shade. So you can use the medical station and then get back on the course.
Yeah, by no means checking into a medical tent does not mean you are out of the race. If you've got blisters, stop, put a Band-Aid on. It's totally fine.
So continuing that, Anil, what should runners do if they feel discomfort or pain during the race? Should they just run to the next mile or two?
I think, it really calls back to your training. So, when you're training and you have, developed something and maybe you run through it, all right, it kind of resolves itself, rub some dirt on it, everything will be fine type of thing. But if you are running and an alarm system kind of goes off in your head and, really the biggest thing is that it really changes your stride, it really changes your gait, it really changes your mood, Those are the things that are more sinister that have to be kind of really checked out immediately. And so then, therefore, I would say go to the medical tent. Just make sure that you're okay. Maybe it is something that you just need some quick attention to. Maybe you need to shake it out a little bit. Maybe you need to just stop and stretch it out. And then you can continue going. But so I think, again, it really just calls back to you've been training for this. This is your celebration. All right, trust your body. All right, but again, if something really, really throws you off, that's when you go right away and seek help.
Awesome. So trust your body, listen to your body, and then if you need, we have medical tents, so please take advantage of those. And as Coach Steve shared, use the medical tent and then continue running if you need to. So you've run 13.1 miles, right? You've made it to the finish line. What you've been dreaming about for many weeks. You did it. And you're going to do it. So Stephanie, can you tell us about what runners will get after they cross that finish line and how they can find their family and friends, and how about baggage?
Sure.
Physical baggage.
Physical baggage. Yes, we don't need to unload any baggage here. First and foremost, you are going to get a medal, and it is going to feel so good to get that medal put on your neck by a volunteer. Remember, when you see a volunteer, thank a volunteer. Our races are not possible without our volunteer support, so they'll be at the pre-party, they'll be at the start, along the course, the finish. Just want to shout out them because they are just great to our organization and to our runners. So first you'll get your medal, and then you'll also get an HSS recovery bag. In that is going to be water, Gatorade, pretzels, and an apple. So oftentimes once we finish running, we don't want to eat anything, we don't want to drink anything, but just try and get some hydration in you, try and get some Gatorade, especially if it's hot out, some electrolytes, get those going. That's why we give it to you. It's not for the dinner that you're going to have that night. It's for immediate recovery. So make sure that you're taking that. After you do that, if you've checked a bag, you'll be able to pick it up at the baseball field. They will be there until 12. If you're not able to claim your bag, if you've gone off the course, if you forgot you checked a bag, we're actually going to be bringing the bags to the run center starting on Sunday. So if you forget it, it'll be able to pick it up here from 12:30 Sunday the 19th through that Friday until 8 o'clock. So you'll be able to pick up your bag here. When it comes to finishing the race, you've gotten your bag. How do you find your friends and family? So this is where picking a location after the race really comes in handy. So if you haven't shared your location with them and they don't know where you are, pick a physical place. Maybe a McDonald's, maybe any type of restaurant,
Hot dog stand.
Hot dog stand. I was trying to find something else that's over there. The aquarium, something that is a physical location that you can find your friends, so that way they know where you are. And if you're a little tired and you don't know where to go, you can pop it into Google and walk over there. But definitely find a place that is close to where the finish line is. And a special shout out to the friends and family. Do not make it harder for your runner to find you. Pick a location and stay in that location. Because your runners have just ran 13.1 miles. Do not make them walk or run any further. So just make sure you're communicating well with your team who's going to be supporting you.
When I ran my first New York City half marathon, 2010, a long time ago, I finished the race and I texted my mom, like, Mom, I'm done. I got texted her, and so she starts making her way over to the finish line, and I'm also going to where our meeting place, but we on different streets, and so he's at 67th Street, 68th Street, so just past each other, and I was at like Columbus Circle, and she wasn't there. I'm like, Mom, where are you? And now she's at the finish line. I'm like, this is why you don't leave the spot.
Don't leave the spot.
Don't leave the spot.
Don't leave it.
Because then I walked back and forth, and Mom, come on.
So would you have 15 miles that day?
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
They might be a little upset with you, if you do
My
that,
mom's
so.
watching too, and she's really sad to that story.
Okay, so Anil, HSS is going to have a recovery zone. Again, folks who may not have run our races before, may not be familiar with what the recovery zone is, what they can go there for. So can you talk to us about how runners can utilize that after they've crossed the finish line?
Yeah, so I think we're at pretty much every race, and the recovery zone is a really great time, because this is really the time where, first of all, your recovery really starts as pretty much right before you cross that finish line. As soon as you're prepared to cross the finish line, because that's when your cool down starts. At the recovery zone, we then start to facilitate more of a recovery. So we have our physical therapist. I'll be there as well, and where we can guide you through various stretches, foam rolling techniques. If anything is bothering you, we can kind of tease some things out to kind of guide you in the right direction as to what to do right there at the recovery zone, or potentially if you need to see one of our physicians. We will have a physician on staff as well too, and as well as a performance specialist as well. So you can talk to them about potentially your next race, about how to also increase your performance. And honestly, it's just a lot of fun. We're going to be there smiling, I promise. We're going to ask you dumb questions like, how'd you do out there? And then you're going to be like, don't talk to me. But we all have a great time. This is actually my favorite race to do the recovery zone, besides the marathon, of course. But everyone, year after year, just absolutely loves it and really appreciates what we do there.
Awesome, because we go from the party at the pier to the beach, so it's pretty great setup that we have for the RBC Brooklyn Half. So the amenities there for you, the HSS Recovery Zone, I've always heard from runners that they really enjoy going and taking advantage of that. So if you're able to, please do go and do that. And Coach Steve, so folks have crossed the finish line, whether or not they've run the race before, they may be feeling a mix of feelings, right? Talk to us a little bit about that, how they can sort of manage that.
I think it's going to really depend on your day, but I really hope everyone feels joyful and proud, no matter what your watch tells you after you cross that line, because a lot of people don't get to the start line. You train for 10 weeks, injuries happen, life happens. Nil says, go to Vanilla, he say, oh, you can't run the race because you got a strain. He'll never say that, I know. But, the PT says you can't run it because it's going to be a more serious injury. So things happen, life happens, you don't get training, so you can't make, so many people don't make a start line. And then some people don't make it to the finish line. Things happen in a race. We all know that, unfortunately. So getting just to the finish line is joyful. So take that moment and soak it in. Arms in the air. Once again, no matter if you wanted 2 hours and got 2:02:01, like it doesn't matter what your watch says. Put the arms in the air because you just accomplished something that many, 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 many millions of people have not ever done ever. We know how hard it was to get into the RBC Brooklyn Half Marathon, and so be happy that you got to that finish line no matter what your goal time is. But a lot of times after the race, people start to feel kind of sad, depressed afterwards because you just finished something really big in your life. You just accomplished something amazing. You go from such a high in your life to also running a lot, and now May 19th, May 20th, May 21st, June 1st, you're not training anymore. You're not running as much. You don't have this big A goal in front of you, and sometimes you can get kind of sad afterwards. And I think just take stock that might happen. You know, May is Mental Health Month, so just be aware of that. If you need to talk to them afterwards, open those doors up to friends, find other runners around you to have those conversations with, because that does happen from half marathoners to marathoners as you go from such a high in your life to such a low. So know that can happen, and those feelings are real. Recognize them, but experience all those feelings as you make your way through the week afterwards as well.
And sign up for another race.
Sign up for the Frosty 5K that's open right now. So I just signed up for it today. Fifth Avenue Mile is almost sold out, so sign up.
Awesome. So we're going to move into audience questions in just a couple of minutes. Before we do that, Coach Ben is monitoring the chat very well. I know he's doing a great job at that. We'll also take some audience from the question here live. But before we do that, I want to get some final pieces of advice from our panelists here. Anil, we'll start with you.
I think the biggest theme is that you've put in the hard work. You've trained for this, and again, just really celebrate every single mile, every single step that you take throughout the course. If something were to arise close to race day, manage it as best as possible. Okay. Again, try not to do anything new, out of the ordinary. Again, trust your process, have a routine, and when you cross that finish line, just know it was all worth it.
And thank you so much. And Stephanie.
I would say plan, control what you can control. You know where the pre-party is, you know what the times are, you know the start time of your wave, you know where the finish line is. Plan what you can. But like Coach Steve said, make sure you do take time to acknowledge your accomplishment. Oftentimes we finish a race and then it's immediately on to the next one, and you constantly fill that, I don't want to say, well, it's a void because your training is now done. You constantly try and fill that void. Sit on that high, enjoy it, love it, and then, that following Wednesday, Thursday, you may start to feel that, but acknowledge it because it just shows how much what you just accomplished meant to you, and then it helps set you up for even bigger goals for the future.
Thank you. And Coach Steve.
I'd say run your race. We all have 27,500 people will be running their own race out there. So run your race, and your goals will come with that, whether that's a time goal, whether that's a feelings goal, whether that's a having fun out there goal. Those times and those goals will come if you run your race. And then just remember where you are. As I said, just last question was 27,000 runners, are out there, and many, many thousands more tried to get into this race. So be happy with that and take stock of what you're doing. Like if I still remember the first time I ran this race, after the race, it was one of those days that was beautiful on the beach, in the ocean with friends, just soaking it all in. I still have that visual, and I still remember running as long a stretch it is, Ocean Parkway. It kept going, Avenue Z is not the end. So really just take stock of where you are and be happy with that. No matter what you're feeling, those feelings are real, and just visualize every aspect leading up to the day so you can remember it all.
Thank you. So celebrate, control what you can control, run your race, and just a reminder, whatever your motivations might be for running the half marathon, whether that's you're running in memory of someone, running for a cause, running for yourself, just remember you're also part of something big. It's one of the biggest half marathons in the country, and you get to be a part of it. So we will now move on to the audience questions. If we have any folks in the audience here, if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. We just ask that you keep it a little brief and let us know if you're asking a specific panelist as well. Oh, mic right there.
Hard still, and then it's flat. So what does that look like?
Yeah, so how does running with a pacer look like? So they're going to run by effort. And so I'm actually pacing 2 hours out there, so the middle of the pack kind of right there. And all pacers kind of follow the same motto. But as you run up, the Flatbush Start hill, we'll go slower up that hill because it's a hill. So you run by effort, and then we'll pick up the pace going down the hill. Battle Pass Hill, same thing. I'll probably slow down even more because it's the biggest hill. So I'm doing 909. I'll probably do 930s, 945s. Might be really slow. That's okay. My goal is to keep, and all pacers' goal is to keep everyone together for as long as we can, knowing we have a goal time. Now, the 120 pacer will do differently than 3 hours. So some might walk, some might run the whole thing. So talk to those pacers in your corral beforehand. They'll be in every single corral. So talk to them, see what their goal, what their plan is. It'll be even efforts, but again, they're all human. They're all different runners, knowing that they'll run even efforts and what that looks like. Some might walk to the water stations, some won't. Most won't, but some might, depending on what your goal is out there. And the whole list of what pacers are in what corrals is on our website, and it'll be at the pre-party as well.
Thank you, Coach Steve. Any other questions from the audience here? Just raise your hand.
I have a question actually online, and the
Okay.
microphone works. Sorry about that earlier. This is a good one actually for anybody up on the panel. What are some good warm-ups and stretches before the race?
It's toss to nil.
Yeah. I think the best category to go with is a dynamic warm-up. Okay, so that's basically, we all know what a good, nice stretch feels, that prolonged hold. But a dynamic warm-up is really more so movement throughout the range of motion that you already have. So instead of really holding out those hamstrings and stretching them out before your race, it may be better to do kicks, high knees, butt kicks, anything like that, to kind of really work your whole body in a full system rather than really cranking on that sore hamstring that you might already have. Stretching, static stretching, has shown to kind of decrease athletic performance before any type of movement or explosive activity. So a dynamic warm-up would be the way to go, but you can do those static stretches after the race, kind of throughout your cool down.
I agree with your answer, but I want to add a caveat because that is a paper book answer, but when you come to the RBC Brooklyn Half, it's very hard to do those things in the corrals, which is, I said, 27,000 athletes.
Please don't kick people.
Doing that. When you get past the metal detectors, NYPD security, it's kind of hard to do that stuff. So if you want to do any warm-ups like strides or mile, some people do mile warm-ups further, slow pace, do that before get in the corrals. When you're in those corrals, you can, depending on how crowded it is, you could do some high knees in place, just watch around you, of course, but it can be crowded in those corrals.
Great point. And I think simply doing something like a simple squat, calf raises, anything where you, again, are not going to violently hit anyone, that would be fantastic. But just anything that you can to kind of really move your body as one full system rather than just kind of cranking into a long stretch.
Thank you both. And we have another question from the audience.
Hi, I just want to know, are you allowed to bring a handheld water bottle to the race? And how many gels would you recommend us to, how many gels would you recommend us to bring?
So I'll start with the gel question because that's very personal, depending on what you've been training with. So from my own personal experience, I only take 2 gels during a half marathon. Steve and Neil, you may take something different when you're doing a half marathon. So whatever you've been doing during training, that's what you should be doing during your long run. If you want to bring an extra one just in case, to give you that last bit of boost, you absolutely can. You are allowed to bring a water bottle through as long as it's a liter, I believe, less than a liter, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there will be gels on the course as well. SIS will be at
Yes.
mile 7, so if you use SIS gels, there's a free one for you. Backup, 2 or 3 with one
It's-
caffeinated and some other flavors.
It's going to be at mile 7.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. And do we have something online?
Oh, we always have something online, Summit. I mean, everyone's asking questions. It's beautiful tonight. So I'm going to stick with the water and the gels because it kind of goes with the theme here. So we had a question, is it okay not to bring our own water since there is going to be water stations on course?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have fully stocked 8 stations with, like I said, Gatorade, water, SIS gels. You do not need to bring anything. I don't bring anything to our
Bring your
races.
running shoes.
Bring your running shoes.
And your bib.
Yeah, bring those things. But yeah, you don't need to bring anything. We provide everything race-wise. So you take SIS, it's on the course. You're set.
And at every aid station, it'll be Gatorade first, and then water after that. The sides will vary in Prospect Park, so sometimes it's on the left, sometimes on the right. It just depends on the tangents. And then when you're Ocean Parkway, it'll almost always be on the right side, the runner's right. Unfortunately, that is a sunny side, but it's because the tangents work the measurements, so we have to have it on that side. So if you need shade, go to left. If you want the water, go to your right.
Great.
Got another one, because good questions out here online tonight, people. So someone's asking, do I have to take gels? Do I need to? Or is water going to be enough?
So it comes down to your training. Similar to our question in the audience, it comes down to your training. Steph takes 2. I don't take any for a half marathon. That's just I have trained myself for that. Some people take 4. So it really depends. Some people take other things than gels. I've seen someone eat a peanut butter jelly sandwich out of a fanny pack and have that on the course. I have not tried that yet. I'm thinking about it because I love that idea. It comes down to use what is in your training. We had a great talk tonight and we gave great tips. But if your training says something else, I'd rather you do that than listen to me or Steph or Anil. Do that maybe in your next race, save it for your next race, different idea. There's so many different ways to run, so many different ways to train, so many different ways to carb for a race as well. So look back at your training, and if you had 0 to 10 gels in your long runs, do that. Nothing to do in race day, but as Steph said, bring 1 extra of those gels, carbohydrates, whatever it is, just in case you drop one or you feel like you need an extra one at mile 11.
Which I've done, so make sure you don't drop any. It's not fun.
Thank you. We have another question from the audience here.
This is Ben's workout for the day.
Can you talk a little bit about any foods that you recommend the night before race day, and also any foods that you recommend the morning of race day, and also any foods that should be avoided?
Someone asked you, wait, follow-up question. Hang on, follow-up, wait, hold on, follow-up question. Because we get this question all the time, and what do you eat before your last long run? Last weekend, what did you have on the Friday or Saturday night? What did you eat?
Usually carbs, something like pasta.
And did it work for you?
Yes.
So don't change it.
Okay.
And what did you have for breakfast that morning?
Like an omelet.
Okay, did it work?
Yes.
So don't change it.
Okay.
So everything that you've had, look back at your training log, what food worked for you. Now, that's your answer. Someone else they ate a pasta or a potato or whatever it is, that's their food. So stick with what works for you and your training. Breakfast, dinner, lunch, everything. What not to have? Everything you haven't had. So if you haven't had a bean burrito before your long run, don't do that. I tell runners, if it seems boring, that means it's probably going to work for you because it's, this pasta again. That's a good sign. It's not some fancy food. It's not a fancy shirt. It's something that you've always done before. Boring is probably a good thing that race week.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We
Class participation.
We did talk a little bit about this more in detail, I believe, at our last panel. So if you want to go and watch that recording.
It's a good question, though.
Right?
I
Yeah.
like
No,
it.
it's a great question. Yeah, great question. Especially since we're so much closer to race day.
I know.
Do we have another question from the audience?
Question back here?
Awesome.
Hi, do you remember what the hardest part was for you for this particular course, either physically or mentally, and how did you overcome that?
Sure, I can go first. I have only done this once, and the reason I've only done this once is because
It was so hard, the whole thing.
No.
Nightmares.
I did not. The alphabet was very hard on Ocean Parkway. So similar if you've done the New York City Marathon, when you see the street numbers go up, and then you go into the Bronx, and then you come back, and the numbers go down, and you know how to count, you know where the finish line is, and it just becomes a mental slog. So I thought Ocean Parkway was the hardest, just because it's so straight, and you know the end is near, but is it 4 miles? Is it 3.5? So for me, that was the hardest part of this race.
And Avenue Z is not the end on your good Ocean Parkway, so keep that in mind.
Learned that the hard way.
I think it's just going out conservative is the hardest part because just like any race, we all have gone out too fast. Right? Everyone's gone out in a race too fast or long run too fast. Like that was not a good idea. We all do that. And as pacers, our goal is to prevent you from doing that. So even if you don't want to run 2 hours, you want 1:57, 1:56, maybe stay with the 2-hour pacer to prevent you from going out too fast because the horn goes off on Washington Avenue. It is a slight downhill on Washington Avenue, and you're going to want to say, 8 minutes feels very easy today. Forget 9 minutes per mile. For some reason, today's my day, right? You're going to feel that on Ocean Parkway. So as long as you go out nice and conservatively, it's going to be a good day. But the hardest part for me in any race is just going out too fast. I always want to do that. But as long as you kind of hold back. And the hill, it's a hill. We've all done maybe Harlem Hill. Cat Hill is very similar to those. Some say one's harder than the others. But it's a similar vibe to what we have in Central Park.
Awesome. I wanted to point out actually that Stephanie has run the RBC Brooklyn Half once, but she has actually run more than 15 half marathons.
It's a few.
Coach Ben, well, I know we have a lot of questions online, but do you have a question to pull from?
Quickly, Coach Steve, if I want to run with a friend of mine and we're in different corrals and or different waves, what do we do?
Definitely would love you to run the friend as long as you're moving back. So if me and Steph are in together and I'm in wave 2 and she's in wave 1, we have to go to the higher wave. I said I was 2. So Steph can move back with me. I cannot move up with Steph. So as long as you're going into the higher bib, higher corral, that means you can go from 1 to 2, A to C, B to D, D to L, whatever it is. As long as you're moving back with your best friend or with a pacer, you can always move back, but you cannot, for any reason, move forward corrals.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience here? We have a hand right there.
That actually brings me to this question. It's probably online. I'm sure I've read it. But what's the best way to find your pacer? Yes.
The pacers will be, check when you get home online. If you go to the website, there'll be a little accordion drop down that says pace team. Every corral will have one. It depends on what your goal time is and what you're in. And I see Coach Ben has a sign there. It'll say 9:09 on one side and 2 hours on the other side. All will say that. So 1:45 will say 8 minutes, and so you kind of know that's the average pace. And you'll see them in those corrals with a singlet that matches that. They'll hold them out the whole time, but they'll be in the corral, and you'll see it on the website as well as the pre-party. We'll have big signs too. Mm-hmm. The Pacers are the best runners in New York City, as I call them, the best runners in the world. They know this course inside and out. I check their splits, every 5K splits after this to make sure they're on target. If they're not allowed to ask, and they're not allowed to come back next year. So the pressure is on.
It's pretty awesome. And they're usually wearing white and
same color as the sign, yeah.
Yep, white and blue striped singlets, I believe.
It's like Where's Waldo in the running version.
Any other folks in the audience that have questions for the panelists? Otherwise, we can take one from online.
So going back to the pace team, Steve, or anybody up there. So if a runner wants to run with a pacer or a pace that's faster than like 2 hours, they want to go like 158 or 157, what would be some advice on which way to go with that? If they go with a faster pacer and slow down, a slower pacer and speed up, what are some tips there that maybe help go for that?
Start with a conservative. So I kind of mentioned it before. If you want a 157, start with 2 hours or whatever it is. I'd rather you go out more conservative than go out too fast. That's the biggest issue people have with any race is going out too fast. And you can't bank equals bonk. A lot of people say, I want to bank time and the hardest part of the course, and then I can just cruise the last 6 miles on Ocean Parkway. It's going to be a long 6 miles if you go out too fast. So really take it easy if you want to run with a pacer and you want a faster time. They will hold you back from going out too fast. Stick with them. Once again, they're going to go easy on those hills. So don't yell at them by saying, Steve, you're at 9:30 going up Battle Pass Hill. We got it. We know we're going out slower than expected. We're going to make us some time later on Ocean Parkway when it's flat.
The mullet strategy.
The mullet strategy.
Awesome. Coach Ben?
Sure, why not? I'm sure you've all looked at the weather. You all see what's coming up. If it rains, strategy, gear recommendations for runners out there.
Sure. So if it rains, the race is going to happen. So
we're just going to get wet.
You're just going to get wet. The key to running a race in the rain is the main key is before the race starts. So keeping your shoes dry. I would recommend if you're bringing your water or something on the train with you, bring an extra pair of socks. You don't know what's going to happen between the moment you leave your house or apartment and you get to the start. You may hit a puddle. A car may drive by you and get water in your sneakers. So I would bring an extra pair of socks to the start if it does rain. I have seen, I don't know if it works, some people have actually wrapped their sneakers in plastic bags. So as they're walking from the subway, you see, thank you for your business on people's shoes.
I feel like that's just slippery. I feel like I just fall if I did that. I don't think about it. Just, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm doing that, but that is a technique that I have seen. This is a great opportunity to also, if you've got any old ponchos from our races or from, I know sometimes cruise lines or tours, if you've been to Niagara Falls, they give you a poncho. Bring those to the race to help you stay dry beforehand, but we do not cancel races for rain.
And it's rained at this race a few times. Ran in like 2018, 19. We've had downpour at this race, so get ready.
Speaking of 2018-19, I was at the recovery zone and please do not undress in the recovery zone. It is not a locker room. I will ask you to leave very politely. Okay.
Anil's still scarred from that, I can tell.
I really am.
Stories that Anil has from people
It's
changing.
been a few years. Coach Ben, what else do you have for us?
I think we'll wrap it up with this unless we have any more questions from the audience tonight. But I think we kind of touched on it earlier. I think it goes with a lot of first-timers out there. But what are some important things for a first-timer to remember and how to prep?
I think it's first timers to remember just what we kind of talked about it, what we're doing. We're doing something amazing, magical, joyful. Nerves are good. I'm nervous right now when we're 9 days out, and those nerves are only going to build. So take stock of those feelings, recognize them, know that they're a real feeling, and just enjoy every moment. Take visual photos. And Coach Ben, we had one more
Yeah,
question.
we have
in
one
the
more.
audience.
Audience.
Where are we?
Right up front.
There you go.
Just a quick question. How long do you think it will take to get through security into the corrals? How early should we arrive?
It's a good question. So there is a chart on our website. I don't have it memorized yet. It will tell you what time to arrive. So I think it's like an hour difference. So if you're wave 1 and there starts at 7, we say it arrive around 6. If you're wave 2, race starts at 8, so arrive around 7. They'll tell you what time back check opens, back check closes. We do advise sticking to those times. People are always like, can I just come like 20 minutes before? 27,000 people are doing this race. Similar to going to airport. When your flight's at 10 a.m., do you arrive at 9:50, 9:45? No, you get there an hour or 2 hours. I'm 3 hours early. But you get there really, really early because you got things to do. You got to go to security. You got to go to the bathroom. You got to wait at your gate. So same thing happens at our races. You need to be, so I would say if you're in wave 1, 6 o'clock is the time to be there. Wave 2, 7 o'clock. Don't tempt it by, because subways might be full. The next subway might be the next subway. And then the lines for the bathrooms are very, very long. Bag check could take a while. So those security lines can be long. We try our best. We work with NYPD. They do the best they can do, but we only have so many metal detectors and so many staff working for them that we really hope. We hope by the new start line that Steph mentioned, it'll make that faster. It might be 5 or 10 minutes. But I'd rather you be at the start line saying, Steve, why am I here so early? Than you panicking on the subway saying, I wish I listened to Coach Steve, which is what everyone says. Even Steph in the office.
I would say to kind of piggyback off that is that make sure you're getting up early and that you are getting to the start on time. Anil could probably talk on this more, but the night of sleep that you're getting before the race doesn't really matter. It's more so, I think, 2 nights? Yeah.
2 to 3 nights before.
So if you get up at 5, so that way you're at the start line at 5:30 if you live close, get there early. There's nothing wrong with getting there early. Going through security, being able to do your dynamic warm-up, being able to use the restroom, being able to stay hydrated. If it's dry out, sit on the ground, sit on a curb. It is totally fine to get there early, but don't think that an extra 5-10 minutes of sleep, so that way you can just get into security before the corrals close, is gonna work. There's a lot of people doing that. So arrive on time. If you're gonna check baggage, factor that baggage line in as well, because sometimes people often forget that there is a line to hand your bag to our partners and make sure that it gets transported.
And just to speak on sleep a little bit more, it's sleep is just like exercise in the sense that a consistent exercise compounds on each other. Just because you did one nice arm day doesn't mean that it's going to last forever, right? So same thing with sleep too. That's why you want consistent, good night's sleep, good routine. And so if things are a little rough right now, maybe start now for your routine because it's coming up soon.
Great. Thank you so much for all those pieces of advice, everyone. So we are 9 days out from the big day, but bib pickup starts next week, Wednesday through Friday. Please keep those times in mind. We do have a cutoff for when it says bib pickup until this time, so just keep that in mind. If you haven't not been out there before, go and take a picture with the runner name wall. You go and find your name on that wall and you take a picture and you celebrate the fact that you've made it this far. Enjoy the performers, the DJs, being on the pier with your family, friends. Make it a fun hangout, with your family and friends. And we look forward to seeing you at bib pickup at the pre-party, and then we will see you on the big day. And have a wonderful time. Thank you to our panelists, Anil, Stephanie, and Coach Steve. Coach Ben for monitoring the questions, AJ for making sure that live stream is going well, and the recording is gonna go up so you can check it out later. And also our colleagues here at the Run Center who are always so gracious in hosting us. Have a wonderful time and congratulations in advance.